What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. Guys, I had a little bit of a moment last night, and I still don't know what to make of it, but I thought I should share my thoughts and share this idea that popped into my head with everybody because I don't know if it's profound. I don't know if it's the opposite of profound and very simplistic. And, you guys might say this is cool, or you guys might say this is not very inspiring or interesting. So I'm going to share it with you guys. I'm going to get your feedback, and we'll go from there because, as I've mentioned many times, I'm learning so much from everybody that I just think having this channel has been phenomenal for me. So we're going to go back to the Journey of Souls. Journey of Souls is the first book that I read in this journey that began, the spiritual journey, the spiritual quest that began a while back. And at the time when I read it, I was just, I think, really into just purely the new age spiritual narrative. Life is a lesson. We're here to live. We're here to learn. We're here to make mistakes. We're here to be hurt and to learn and grow from those experiences and just keep elevating spiritually, raising our vibration. And that's essentially everything there is to life. Nothing is an accident. Nothing is a mistake. All the trials, the tribulations, they're all beautiful learning lessons. And I loved that. Since that time, now I've obviously been confronted with a ton of information that doesn't paint such a rosy picture, and I've been really grappling and wrestling with that. And it actually, again, for the time being, has kind of taken me to the other side, thinking that, okay, wait a minute, perhaps these new age ideas are some sort of a manipulation to keep us locked in a reincarnation loop, the wheel of samsara, as the Buddhists call it, the cyclical or cyclic existence that is mentioned time and again in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and that the goal or aim is to escape the cyclic existence, not to keep re-entering it. And so I was thinking back on some of the things that are presented in Journey of Souls, because I do think Journey of Souls has a lot of great information through these. The information is gathered about the astral plane through these hypnosis-induced therapy sessions where people are going back and they're remembering the lives between lives, as it's called. And they remember not just previous lives, but the time in the astral when, including the planning process for their current life or other lives, and what that all looks like. And so I was thinking back on it, and I had this epiphany. And here's the gist of the epiphany. The gist of it was that perhaps another part of the manipulation is making us think that we have less control over our lives than we really do. And I'm going to get into why I just started thinking about that. But again, if part of this manipulation, in fact, probably the main part of it, is to basically convince us that we are less powerful and capable and independent than we truly are, then this might exactly be the motivation for this entire planning process and discussion process of explaining exactly what major milestones in our lives are going to be, so that it kind of forces people, to some extent, at least the majority of people, onto a set path that the system wants us to take. This is like such a unfortunate and dark thing to be confronted with if it's true, but like, I don't know, it just started to make sense to me. There's that line in the movie Matrix, and it's so funny how this movie just keeps coming up, but there's that one line in the first movie in the Matrix where he's meeting the Oracle, and he meets her for the first time, and they talk, and she's like, yeah, you're not the one. She's like, and by the way, don't worry about the vase. He's like, what are you talking about? What vase? And then he knocks over the vase and it breaks. He goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. She's like, I told you, don't worry about it. She's like, but what's really going to get you? I think he says, how did you know? She's like, oh, well, yeah, that's a great question. But she's like, what's another great question is, would you have broken it if I hadn't mentioned anything? And it just started, and it's like that idea really started to creep into me. It's like, in the planning phase, and we're going to get into all of that right now in a minute, but in the planning phase, is it, hey, we know how things are going to work and we're giving you a heads up and we're going to explain everything? Or is it planting seeds? Is it a manipulation of planting the idea of, yeah, you're going to have this happen, then that happen, then that happen, then that happen. These little milestones and markers are going to be almost like implanted in our consciousness so that we're led to make certain decisions in accordance with maybe how the system wants us to play out our lives. Like, I don't know. And then that's just another portion of the control system to make us think, yeah, like, yo, my fate is my fate, right? The idea of fate, maybe that's a part of the control system. Like that is not a true thing, that we ultimately have free will and authority and domain over our lives to such a great degree, but we just don't realize it because we have these ideas of fate. Like, this is all the stuff that was coming into me. And these could all be ways of limiting our power, limiting us from doing what we're supposed to be doing in these lives. One last thing I'll talk about the Tibetan Book of the Dead. One thing it talks about is there's an entire prayer section for asking the Buddhas, whoever they may be, the enlightened ones, and the way that I interpret it was whoever are the star seeds on this planet. There's an entire prayer and recitation for asking those individuals to please keep coming back and to not leave and go off into nirvana, and to stay and keep helping mankind free, basically empty the world or allow people to empty the cycle, not empty the world, but like allow people to empty the cycle of reincarnation, so they can help other people reach enlightenment. And so it's like, it makes me think that perhaps a way to slow down this force that's trying to liberate people and that's trying to awaken them, and a way to slow them down is by making them think that they're following a very specific path and that you can't really deviate from that path, by pre-programming that into their consciousness, and stopping the more highly evolved or more spiritually evolved or whatever from these people, maybe helping the rest of humanity or mankind trapped on this planet. Anyways, these are all the thoughts that have been running through my head, so I wanted to share it with everybody. Okay, so without further ado, I asked ChatGPT to kind of give me a summary of this section of the book instead of just pulling straight excerpts, and I think it did a really good job. So let's go through this, and then we're going to talk about this potential idea. And I really want to hear from people in the comment section about what you think about this new theory or this new idea that popped into my head. So big picture, life is not random. This is according to Journey of Souls. But it is not fully scripted either. Newton's central idea is that human life is planned before birth, but not in a rigid, every second is predetermined way. The soul allegedly chooses life with certain major themes, key relationships, challenges, turning points, and opportunities for growth. So in Newton's model, the soul does not choose every detail like a movie script. Instead, it chooses a probability field, a family, body, culture, personality, tendencies, karmic relationships, talents, weaknesses, and major situations that will test the soul. So that means that some events are strongly programmed. Look, I didn't even see that word. What the hell? That some events are strongly programmed or highly I know they don't mean it in that way, but you know what I'm saying. Like, that's weird that I was just thinking about that. Or highly likely, while others depend on free will, reaction, timing, emotional maturity, and choices made during life. And it's like, ultimately, if this law of free will, which I really need to investigate more and where that came from in the first place, or who, like, where, anyways, I feel like it's a universal law, but I just want to study it more. But regardless, yeah, like, why would anything not be free will if that's truly a fundamental universal law? Why are some things free will and some things, I guess, programmed in? Okay. And then they talk about the process of choosing your life. Okay, first the soul reviews its previous life, determines, hey, like, what did I learn? What did I not learn? Where did I make mistakes? Whatever. And then you use these different, I guess, failures or deficiencies to plan the next life. Okay, now you have guides and teachers. Some might say these are the Archons, right? When I first read this book, I'm like, no, it's really guides and teachers. So I don't know. But guides and teachers help the soul identify what it needs next. So then he said, you're not planning alone. You have guides, teachers, and councils of elder beings. This is, again, the stuff that David Icke calls BS on, because he's like, why do they look old? Why do they look like wizened men? That doesn't make sense. There's no such thing as age outside of this dimension. So why do they, what is it? Why are they looking like elders? That seems manipulative, right? Which I see his point. These guides do not force a life on the soul. They help the soul understand what kinds of experiences would be useful. But again, I don't think they can. And again, I'm just going back to this idea. Like, I think our free will, I think we're being, maybe the possibilities, we're being misled to think our free will is not as powerful or capable as it really is. So I don't think they can force a life on us, but they help the soul understand the experiences that would be useful. So maybe convincing us. For example, a soul that has abused authority may choose a life where it experiences powerlessness, humility, or dependence. A soul that has avoided intimacy may choose a life where marriage, family, and abandonment or loyalty become central. Okay, so you get the idea. So it's all these different things. And then it's like, yeah, like how can you go through a life just so perfectly pure that you just don't do any wrongs? You don't ever, in some way, shape, or form, hurt somebody, whether it's intentionally or inadvertently. Y- so there's always it's like there's always going to be something that you could have done better in the previous life. It's always going to be the case. Unless you just sit on a mountaintop by yourself your entire life and like meditate and don't hurt anybody. But even then you could still have negative thoughts. I mean, it's kind of like the way that it's so funny how I'm reading this now with a different mindset than when I first read it. But it does kind of feel like a potentially rigged system because there's always something that you're going to mess up. I mean, even just think about the nature of hunting and procuring food just on a daily basis. Even if you take away the people element, you're constantly hurting animals or plants or vegetable matter, whatever it may be, that's alive. So just like no matter what you do in this life, there's gonna be something to be like, yeah, you could have done better there. I'm gonna make you a plant because you ate a lot of plants, right? Like it just seems like it could never end. Anyways, I digress. But this is the idea. Okay. So then again, souls choose lives based on lessons, not comfort. Sure. So we're trying to, one of the most important things, they don't pick the easiest or happiest life. Newton's clients often describe choosing lives because they offer the right spiritual challenge. This is where his view differs from a simple heavenly reward model. The soul may choose pain, disability, difficult parents, poverty, less betrayal, loss, betrayal, loneliness, or demanding career path if these experiences create the exact conditions needed for growth. What will help me develop patience? All these questions are asked. Okay, then here's the place of life selection. So this is how it works. He describes a stage where souls are taken to a kind of selection environment where potential lives can be previewed. Some summaries call this the place of life selection. The idea is that souls are shown possible future lives. Here's what it is, right? Almost like reviewing scenes, timelines, bodies, families, or probabilities. This is one of the most fascinating parts of the book. The soul does not simply get dropped into earth. It examines potential life paths. So they see all this stuff, emotional temperament, parents, social, cultural circumstances, key crisis points. Again, the question is, are we being shown these things because they truly are inevitable? And that's what I'm questioning. And that's why I don't think anymore. Or are we being shown these things to program us, to put this in our consciousness so that as we go along, we kind of follow a pre-written path? And if you buy into the Loosh narrative, then it would be a pre-written, a predetermined path so that the maximum amount of Loosh can be extracted, the maximum amount of Loosh type of engendering experiences can be had, and therefore like continually feeding the system. That's what is happening? Programming. I mean, like, right? The more I think about it, that's what it feels like to me. Like, why? Once you know the lessons that you need to learn, if the point is we have amnesia anyways, I'm going to get to that in a moment. They talk about that. Why would you need to be shown it? You know what I mean? And to agree to it. But if these are your spirit guides and everything, why wouldn't you just say, this is what I need. You do this for me. Let's do it. What is the point of seeing it if you're going to have amnesia anyways afterwards? Is it, maybe some might argue that no, you need to sign off on it. That's just how it works. And maybe, or is it, is it just a mechanism by which to get us to consent and then also place those ideas into our minds so that it actually does unfold, or like more likely to unfold in those ways? Because I think ultimately we probably have free will and authority over every decision, over exactly how our lives go. Man, the more I think about it, the more the more I feel like this idea makes sense. Let me know your thoughts, guys, please. Okay, of course, we choose parents. That's part of it. I made a video actually a long time ago about choosing parents, which I do think it's true. I do think we're shown those things, but again, maybe not for the reasons that are given to us at the time. But yeah, I think like we probably, that's ultimately the idea behind the power of free will, that ultimately we do have to sign off on these things. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. But it would violate a law of the universe. We would have dominion over that choice. Okay, so we choose these different bodies. Obviously, you see that brain chemistry, talents, limitations, sensitivity, et cetera, choosing jobs, right? We get to choose all these things. Okay, and then in our soul group, we have different interactions that we agree upon ahead of time. Okay, we're going to meet you at this time, or I'm going to meet you at that time. You're going to be my parent. You're going to be my best friend. You're going to be my rival, my enemy, and all of these different roles are meant to purportedly teach you different lessons and have a different function in your soul's development. Again, the events are planned, but the reactions are not guaranteed. Makes sense. Once again, just setting the seed so that these things kind of happen and unfold in a particular way, but nothing can be guaranteed because ultimately we have free will. Okay, now here we come to this part. Bit of it in aside, it's not exactly what the video is about in terms of the memory wipe, but I wanted to share this excerpt once again because I know a lot of people have a lot of issues with the memory wipe and this life being some sort of a learning vehicle, but then why is your memory wiped, right? So just to share, this is what Michael Newton does say on this topic. So he says a key part of the model is that we forget the plan when we incarnate. This forgetting is not a mistake. It is necessary. So here's the rationale according to what Michael Newton uncovered. I shouldn't say Michael Newton. This is what Michael Newton uncovered through these hypnotic sessions. If you remembered everything, the test would be compromised. You would know exactly who was supposed to betray you. You would know which spouse or job was planned. You would know which tragedy was coming. You might not act authentically. So the veil creates real emotional stakes. Okay. The soul is to operate through intuition, conscious attraction, discomfort, dreams, synchronicities, and inner knowing rather than full memory. And this is why Newton's clients often describe life as much harder once inside the body than it looked from the spirit realm. Okay. Let me process this for a second. Like, does that make sense? So the veil creates real emotional stakes, like which we can understand, if you went fully immersed into a virtual reality simulation or something, and you really wanted to know what is it like to be another person living another life, and you want to feel the full emotions of that simulation, you would say, okay, try and block out my entire brain and all my memories. So I don't remember that I'm playing a game. I don't remember that I'm this person in this life. I want to feel fully immersed and I want that full experience. So you can kind of understand from that analogy, okay, maybe something like this could make sense. But if this is all meant to teach, like there's got to be another way where you don't have to wipe your memory, right? I mean, like we're learning lessons and you imagine the lessons are meant to be cumulative, not yeah, right. Like the memory wipe thing doesn't make sense. Like I can get it as a type of experience, but then again, in the analogy that I'm giving, once you come out of the game, you would probably remember the game, and then you remember all your memories again. You're like, okay, and you can put it all together. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know though, because I feel like in a lot of the near-death experiences, when people leave, when they're in the astral, it's not like their memories flood back to them. A lot of people say that during that time, they're shown the different lives that they've led before, and they're shown the bodies and stuff like, oh, you were this person, that life, this person, so they're not remembering everything all of a sudden. So it's like the memory wipe is still there. Yeah, I don't know. This memory wipe thing, why is that an integral part of learning and evolving? It doesn't seem right. It can't be. But anyways, this is Michael Newton's perspective. All right, getting back to the main point. That's what I want to know, guys. This is my big epiphany that all of a sudden came to me. Is that selection process, is that staging area? Because I don't believe that's a made-up idea. I think it's not a made-up idea. It's from these hypnosis-induced sessions, but I don't think it's a false idea. Let me put it like that. So if these staging sessions truly exist, and if you're really going through the process of picking everything and choosing everything, which you probably are, because we have to sign off on the idea of going back in, or I think really doing anything. But is that whole thing truly showing us, hey, this is what you're going to experience, like, right? Because if it's a manipulation system, right, it's not for our benefit, it's for us to produce some external product. So is that whole staging system just a way to implant ideas into our consciousness so that we lead lives according to what the system generally wants, in order to keep the Loosh farm running, keep it at high capacity, and keep churning out the product to the highest degree possible, most efficient degree possible? Man, tell me what you think. Or is this an idea that's already been explored or discussed somewhere else? Because if so, I'd love to look more into it. I'd love to explore who's ever talked about this before, if other people have talked about it. I'm really, really curious. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Thank you guys so much. I have a pounding headache right now. I don't know what's going on. I'm not feeling so great, but I had to make this video. Obviously, you guys know how obsessed I am about all these topics right now, and I'm just diving in so deep, and it's just so fascinating and hopefully helpful for everybody. It's very helpful for me just to get a better understanding of what's going on. Another thing too, if you made it to the end of this video, guys, let me know when you'd like me to do another live stream. Obviously, I'm definitely going to do one again on Friday. I think the same time. I think that time worked really well. But if you guys want me to do a midweek stream, give me some suggestions, give me some ideas. I'm probably going to put up a survey right now, actually, and see if people want me to do another live stream, maybe Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So that'd be great. Thank you guys so much for joining, for all the support. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.